Jin, whatever I do it to protect you. So you understand?
I understand.
Our rebellion is all that remains to push back the Empire. We think you might be able to help us.
When was the last time you were in contact with your father?
What is this? It appears he is critical to the development of a super weapon.
If my father built this thing, we need to find him.
They are requesting a call sign.
It's, Rogue. Rogue One.
The power that we are dealing with here is immeasurable.
We have hope. Rebellions are built on hope. You're all rebels, aren't you?
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
My nerd world.
And welcome to it. I am your host, Jon Justice. It is episode number 67 of the My Nerd World Star Wars podcast. Hopefully, now this is really dependent upon when you listen to the podcast, but hopefully you have your tickets to go see Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Hopefully I have my tickets to go see Star Wars Rogue One. I say that because tickets go on sale in a matter of hours, and it's a little bit screwball how they're going on sale. They're doing it similar to what they did with the Force Awakens. It's just the timing of the whole thing is strange. So everybody's been waiting for, obviously, the tickets to go on sale, and when the Force Awakens came out, they released them. Well, it was way earlier than what they're doing now. I mean, we are, about 2 weeks out, a little bit more than 2 weeks out from Rogue One, and tickets go on sale. Essentially, for me, Sunday night at 11 o'clock. If you're on the West Coast, they'll be going on sale at 9 o'clock, or will have gone on sale. And if you're on the East Coast, you get screwed out of the whole deal, and they go on sale at midnight. I have a rather difficult situation that I'm in, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I have a lot to talk about on today's podcast. And I do have some spoilers about Rogue One that I'll be sharing with you at the end of the podcast. I'm going to do you a favor, though, that if you're not interested in hearing those spoilers, I'll give you a chance to skip it. I'll put it right at the end and give you plenty of warning and let you know that the only thing of the podcast that you will be missing is the spoilers and me saying goodbye. But just real quick, I'm in Minneapolis, and it's the strangest thing ever, but it's a big market. In radio terms, it's market 16. So you've got like New York and LA being markets 1 and 2, and it's all just based off of size. So this is a large market that I live in, compared to Tucson, Arizona, which was a medium market. That was like markets in the 60s, I guess, right? The lack of movie theaters in Minneapolis is truly astonishing. Like and it's not even just movie theaters, but it's also showings. We went to go see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which I really didn't care for. I'm not a Harry Potter guy, but be that as it may, we tried to go get tickets just like a day before, and we couldn't get into a screening for a couple of days. So the situation I'm dealing with tonight, I'm going to go to bed early, set my alarm, and for 11 o'clock, and then I'll, hopefully purchase my tickets, and it won't be that big of an issue. I've already got the websites. I've got them saved to my Mac reading list. I already have my login all taken care of because I'm going to be getting tickets for the preview night, which is Thursday, December 15th, and then also tickets for the next night for Friday. Same thing I did with Star Wars: The Force Awakens. And normally I wouldn't be worried. Like if I was in Tucson still, I wouldn't worry about it because there were more than enough options to go to the movies. But here, just the screenings are really limited and the theaters are really limited. So hopefully I won't have any problem. Hopefully you won't or have not had any problems getting your tickets to go see Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, which, without saying, and I've been saying, I am totally hyped for. I cannot wait to see this movie. Again, different than The Force Awakens, but I am so excited to watch this movie. So let me tell you what I have on tap for the podcast this week. Again, episode number 67. We'll talk a little bit of Rogue One. New trailers. We're getting essentially a new TV trailer, it seems like, every single day. But we've also gotten more long-form trailers than we did with The Force Awakens. I'd have to see a breakdown. It really feels like we've gotten more long-form trailers, longer than a 30 or 50-second trailer. They've all been great. Most of them have been showing a little bit of new footage here and there, and like I said on last week's podcast, I'm fairly certain that we've got a pretty good gauge of the movie itself in terms of locations we're going to be going to. There were some photos that were released today that offered some new glimpses of things that we hadn't seen before, just characters dressed differently, interacting with other characters. But I think the movie, while not being laid out, we're getting a pretty good idea of what the aesthetic of the film is going to feel like. So it's not a good or bad thing; it just is a thing. All of these movies have a very distinct, specific vibe. For me, they do. All the Star Wars films do. They were really represented well in some of the secondary original trilogy posters. There was one especially that Drew Struzan did, and I want to say it was for the special editions, but he basically drew one long poster. It was 3 posters, one for A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. But if you put them all side by side, and I have the posters, they all kind of match together. And they all had a specific color palette. A New Hope had had sort of oranges, more earth tones, yellows. The Empire Strikes Back was washed in blue, and the Return of the Jedi poster was all green. And that was really, it's sort of indicative of those films. When you look at the color palette for the prequels, very much the same way. The Phantom Menace had a similar vibe in terms of color palette on the posters, and the movie did as well. Attack of the Clones, not like The Empire Strikes Back, washed in blue. It was had a little bit of blue, but more of an orangish tone because of Geonosis. I've talked about my problems with Geonosis from Attack of the Clones on previous podcasts and how I really wish that hadn't been such an orange planet. If they'd done the sky blue, I thought it would have worked a lot better than what it did. And then when you get to Revenge of the Sith, similar in tone, but really had kind of a red overlay to it. And then when you look at The Force Awakens, that really had almost a rainbow palette, and that was very indicative in the poster. And that was very indicative of the movie. It really was a combination of all the original trilogy films that had come before it. So, back to my point, with Rogue One, we're definitely getting this beach blue sky vibe, and you see it through almost all of the marketing. A lot of browns as well, but the marketing of this, people have been complaining quite a bit about. And I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I'm excited for it, but a lot of people have been saying they haven't liked the posters. They haven't liked some of the visuals that they've seen in terms of marketing, not so much the stills from the film. And I can't help but wonder if that's more of just a matter of these are characters that we're really unfamiliar with. And so you're gravitating towards nostalgia where nostalgia isn't necessarily there apart from the Death Star. But I've personally felt the marketing's been great. I've got a studio produced Facebook banner on my Facebook page right now that I really, really enjoy. So back to Rogue One and speaking of the marketing, so a lot of trailers. There was a special look that they released during the Disney holiday special on Thanksgiving night, and really it just ended up being another long-form trailer. It was about 1:33. It did have some new footage in it, and to me, it showed further evidence of how this movie is not going to be holding back in terms of its scope, in terms of its visuals. Showed quite a bit of comedy, levity that we hadn't seen in previous trailers that I liked, and I wonder again if that was part of the now famous reshoots that took place. Still no TIE Strikers in any of the trailers, which I'm wondering, again, this is the new version of the TIE Fighter. I'm wondering if we're not going to see a lot of them in the film. I'm wondering if the TIE Strikers were more there to add an extra layer of toy sales, right? And won't be featured all that prominently in the movie. It wouldn't be that surprising if that was the case. You may see them in a few shots, but we haven't seen any of them in the trailers. And so, it could be much like what happened with The Force Awakens with the Snowspeeder, the First Order Snowspeeder that was released that didn't see any action. You see it sitting in the background on Starkiller Base with Rey and Finn when they go in to unlock the doors for Han and Chewie towards the end of the film. But there was a whole sequence cut out of the movie, and so that was a toy that I just saw on shelves over the weekend again, that I own because I think it's a really, really cool vehicle, but didn't see any screen time. So I'm really wondering if the TIE Striker isn't, again, just sort of a placement to sell toys, because they haven't released any full-scale X-Wings yet, any toy X-Wings yet. The only vehicles we've gotten so far are the new AT-ACTs, which I haven't seen one in stores yet, nor can I afford to buy one because it's like $300. The U-Wing, and again, the TIE Striker. So it'll be interesting to see. I hope they do get some play. I think it's a really, really unique vehicle. I'm looking forward to seeing it on screen. My hope is that they're holding it back for when we go and see the film. My speculation is that more than likely that they're not going to be in the film all that much. So, also on the podcast today, I'm going to talk a little bit about Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Some things I noticed that I haven't mentioned on previous podcasts in my own journey towards Rogue One here in a few weeks. And then again, the spoilers at the end, and I also have a bit of Episode 8 news, kind of news, not really news. The spoiler will relate directly to Rogue One and the way that the movie opens, in case you're curious. So I have an answer to the is there a crawl, is there not a crawl? I will give you that answer and tell you exactly what you can expect when you see the movie if you want to hear it. So I've kind of gotten ahead of myself because I was going to talk about some of the marketing as part of the news today, but we'll go ahead and we'll make it official.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
We are hearing that there's been some official reports out. Entertainment Weekly did another sort of week-long release of news stories. They did this with The Force Awakens, where they have a new issue dedicated. And they had an issue dedicated to The Force Awakens, and basically they released photos and snippets of the articles that were going to be released in the magazine that Friday. They did it throughout the week. And they talked a little bit about Darth Vader and his role in the film. And it sounds as if Darth Vader, we know, will be in Rogue One, but he may not be getting a ton of screen time. It doesn't sound like he is going to be, prominently featured in the film for its duration. It sounds as if he's going to kind of come in and come out and, at appropriate times, but not be there for a long period of time. We're also, I'm going to save this other part. Actually, I'll make a note of it. I may have mentioned, I'm trying to be nicer about spoilers than I have been in the past, so I'm going to write it down. A little bit more spoiler news as it relates to Rogue One. And listen, personally, I'm okay if we're not getting much Vader. Having just gone through and watched The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi again, I watched The New Hope recently, but that was the podcast where we watched it with Samantha for the first time. But having the original trilogy and Darth Vader, I don't necessarily need a lot of Darth Vader. There are a lot of fans out there, and a lot of those on podcasts that were and are hoping that we're going to see a Vader in action, wielding his lightsaber. While I think that would be cool, I also wonder if, again, that's one place where you can't overstep your bounds. And what I mean by that is, for a movie that looks like it's taking risks and is willing to broaden the action without any real thought to how it will affect watching A New Hope, I do wonder if it isn't appropriate to second guess the usage of Darth Vader and whether or not you make him more akin to what you saw Anakin do in